Also, with being way up north, you are a bit isolated. And last thing, the surrounding areas, and in Chiang Mai, not as much, but if you're, planning on going to some of those national parks, things like that. So about 2 years ago, right before I got to Thailand, one of my hardest decisions to make was where I wanted to be. Now, between all the major metropolitans, whether it be Pattaya, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, down south, Phuket, a lot of things are similar. There's a lot of things that you can find in all of those places, but coming with that, there are a lot of things that are quite different. So in today's video, now that I've been to all of the major places, we're gonna go through my pros and cons of every spot to hopefully help you make a better decision on where you want to be when you get to Thailand. So let's take a little cruise. Let's talk about it. How's it going, guys? I hope everybody is doing well. Just off the rip. So like I said in the beginning of the video, we're going to talk about pros and cons for Pattaya, obviously, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, kind of / Chiang Rai as well, mostly Chiang Mai though, and then Phuket, and we're going to kind of lump in Krabi and kind of those surrounding areas, kind of the south of Thailand. That's what we're talking about today. So if you're looking for information on somewhere a bit more off the beaten path, sorry, you're burnt. This is not that video. Now also, with that said, I made it a point with all of these pros and cons to try to make them as non-biased as possible. Now, of course, you and I are different. We're gonna be looking for different things when it comes to our Thailand experience, where we wanna live. So I did my best to try and make sure that these things weren't things that I just personally disliked, as well as include some things that don't necessarily bother me, but I think might bother some of you. So enough BS, let's hop right into it. We're gonna start off with the pros of Pattaya, in my opinion. First thing's a major contributor to why I considered Pattaya at first and eventually made the decision to live here, and that's just the affordability. For what you get in Pattaya, some more of the pros that we'll talk about a little bit later, compared to the average cost of living, is a super good deal in my opinion. And another part of this is just the availability of condos. I tell everybody if they're worried about, hey, do I need to, book before I get there? Don't worry about it. If you're looking for a specific building or something like that, yeah, that might be worth it. But if you're just worried about not being able to find a place, that's not gonna happen. There are already tons of buildings here that have availability, and they're constantly building new ones. Another pro that you're gonna see kind of trending through a few of the places that we're gonna talk about is good food. Now, of course, you're gonna be able to find good Thai food pretty much no matter where you are, but in Pattaya especially, I think with the affordability, it helps a lot of people that wanna come to Pattaya and open businesses. And this includes restaurants. So not only but when it comes to Thai food, you can find all kinds of great international food. Some of the best Italian food I've ever had has been here, some of the best Greek food, and then of course Thai food. But when it comes to Pattaya, the availability of all different types of food is for sure a plus. Another thing I really enjoy about Pattaya is the access to really nice beaches / islands. Now, compared to the rest of Thailand, the beaches in Pattaya itself, minus one or two over towards the Patron area, could leave a little bit to be desired. For a lot of people, when you're in Pattaya, one, you're close to Bangkok, which is another point we'll get into, but if you head further south, even 15, 20 minutes, all the way down to Rayong, all the way down to Trat Province, Koh Chang, Koh Samet, there are dope islands all the way down there. There's great beaches, and it is a super easy hop if you've got a motorbike, or if you want to take a taxi down there, it is all super easy to access from here. Now, like we mentioned before, Bangkok / the biggest international airport in Thailand is only 2 hours away. So it's really easy to catch a taxi up there if you're taking a flight out of the country. If there's anything you want to do in Bangkok without being in Bangkok exclusively, it's really easy to get there for a weekend or whatever. So that's something I really enjoy and was something I was for sure thinking about when I chose to live here. A big one for a lot of people, but one that doesn't really bother me, is in general, during the rainy season, it tends to rain a lot less in Pattaya than it does rain in other places. Now, don't get me wrong, rainy season here, it for sure rains, but compared to some of the places we'll talk about later, and just a lot more places in Thailand in general, it tends to be a little more lax here when it comes to that. And of course, the main attractor for a lot of people that want to come to Pattaya, endless nightlife. If you're looking to come to Thailand and party, there are more than enough options in Pattaya, all the way down from super chill, kind of like dive bar style places, up to places if you want to go play pool, all the way up to full-blown nightclubs if you're trying to go buy bottles, chase chicks around, that whole deal. Now moving into some of the cons, we mentioned that there is generally a lot less rain here in Pattaya. Something that comes with that is it can get super hot here compared to a lot of other places. Now don't get me wrong, it's hot everywhere in Thailand, and the rain isn't like an exponential part in cooling things down, but it does help, especially if it's been raining for a couple days. In general, it'll drop a few degrees, but it can get super hot, especially around that April-May time. It can get pretty rough. Now, depending on your age, demographic, what you're looking to do while you're in Thailand, Pattaya is much more of a hot spot for older generation retirees, pensioners. So if you're here, you're a bit younger, and especially if you're not interested in doing the whole nightlife thing, it can be a bit harder to meet people around your age or to just make friends that might be wanting to do other stuff besides the whole party aspect. Now, even though in general there is kind of always something going on here, especially on the beaches, compared to other places that we're going to talk about, the activities outside of the nightlife stuff, or just the availability of quote unquote normal things to do. Not that they don't exist, but they can be a bit more limited here than they are in some of the other places that we'll talk about. Now, with here being a kind of nightlife mecca almost in Thailand, one thing that comes with that is it can attract kind of the wrong people. If you've ever spent any time in Las Vegas, if you're American, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So the vetting process of meeting people here might need to be a little bit more extensive than it would be in other places. Another trend that you're going to kind of see with a couple of the places that we're going to talk about, including Pattaya, the last con for me is that prices can fluctuate quite a bit between the low and high season. If you're here through that whole time, not that big of a deal, but if you're planning on visiting, maybe you came for the first time in slow season, so you have an idea of what things cost. If you come back during a different time of year, it's possible that may be very different. Okay, now moving on to the first Thailand experience you'll most likely have if you are on your way here for the first time, and that is Bangkok. Now, after talking about Pattaya, I kind of realizing that if I take so much time on each one of these, we are going to be here all day, and I want to try to keep everything concise. So from here forward, we're going to kind of speed run things, starting with the pros of Bangkok. In my opinion, tons of activities and events, kind of like how we mentioned with Pattaya. If you're not doing the whole nightlife side of things, they can be a little bit more spread out. It is the complete opposite of that in Bangkok. Obviously, with it being a huge metropolitan, the capital of Thailand, there's always something going on. Easy to travel all over the country from there, whether it's via plane, trains, or buses. Now, like we said, with it being the capital, pretty much all the hubs are there. 2 major airports, major train stations, a lot of buses going all over the country leave from there. So if you're in Bangkok and you want to travel around Thailand more, it is very easy to do so. Pretty much the easiest it can be if you're in Bangkok. Tons of options when it comes to hotels or condos. Kind of comes with the territory. Huge city, more condos, more buildings. Even though there is a lot more people in general, especially if you're not super keen on being in a specific area, you're gonna have a lot of options, especially when it comes to different prices, amenities, things like that. Plenty of infrastructure and things you may need as a foreigner living in Thailand. Now, when it comes to if you're doing international banking, if you're gonna need to deal with visas, all that type of stuff, it might be a little bit harder to find in some of the other cities we're gonna talk about, but if you're in Bangkok, and if it's not in Bangkok, it's probably not in Thailand. Bangkok has endless great food. It's totally understandable. Literally every type of food you could think of, and some really high quality restaurants. If you're trying to live the bougie white wine life, you can definitely do that. There's great food all over the city. From everywhere I've been in Thailand, Bangkok for sure seems to have the widest range of people with different interests and doing different things in Thailand. So it's really easy to find like-minded people. If you're looking for people to travel with, party with, eat with, whatever, you can for sure find them in Bangkok. One of my favorite things about Bangkok, and it does do a lot to alleviate one of the cons we'll talk about, is just the ease and the access of public transportation. So I'm from the West Coast in America. West Coast is not known for public transportation. I'm from Phoenix. Public transportation is horrible. So in Bangkok, with the BTS, MRT, all the different train routes, local buses, it's super easy to get all over the city if you don't drive. Kind of tying back into the ease of bouncing around Thailand, it is a central location. It's right in the middle of Thailand. So the journeys to wherever you want to go are going to be short, and they're pretty much all going to be the same. And if you are looking to cut loose, Bangkok has plenty of places to make that happen. Just like Pattaya, nightclubs, bars, pretty much everywhere. A lot of bars that have been there for a really long time, so they have quite a bit of character, which I really enjoy. Okay, so flowing right into some of the cons now. Super busy and bad traffic, especially in the center of the city. If you're around the Sukhumvit area, traffic is bad. Everybody knows that, but until you're really in it, you don't understand how bad it is. The only place I've been that's somewhat comparable is Los Angeles, and even in Los Angeles, if you're not out on rush hour, it's not too bad. If you are in that central area of Bangkok, it is really, really bad, and everything from the sidewalks, it's just busy. There's a lot of people. So if you're not about that life, but you want to be in Bangkok, I for sure recommend getting away from that area. The air quality in Bangkok can be really bad at certain times of year. Right now, it's not too bad because of all the rain, but such a huge city, lots of bikes, lots of cars, pollution does come with the territory. Now, kind of the opposite of one of the things that we talked about with Pattaya, that was a pro, is it actually does rain a lot in Bangkok. So if that's something that bothers you, maybe you're coming from a place that already rains a lot and that's something you're trying to get away from. Now, granted, it is only for a certain part of the year. It's not year round, but when it is that rainy season, it rains quite a bit. The prices are gonna come at a premium, especially when we compare it to the other places we're gonna talk about today. Those really nice condos in central Bangkok, you know, close to Terminal 21 are gonna be expensive, but once you start getting away from there, it becomes more than reasonable. With Bangkok being so big and so many condos, you could pretty much find something on any type of budget. Now, with that said, like I mentioned, everybody pretty much that is coming to Thailand is gonna come through Bangkok, whether it be living or vacation. So sometimes condos can be a bit harder to find, hotels even, places do book out, so that's something to think about. Okay, now moving to Chiang Mai, check it out. Mark, can you see it? Mark IV Supra just pulled up and parked behind me. Sorry if you can't hear me, but I'm gonna listen to it. I like it, you should too. Now, the pros of Chiang Mai, in my opinion, awesome access to outdoor activities, everything from river rafting, hiking, zip lining, all kinds of other stuff. If you don't know, Chiang Mai is up in the north of Thailand in the mountains. So if you're an outdoorsy type of person, national parks, things like that, there's plenty of that. In general, it's really affordable compared to a lot of the other major metropolitans in Thailand. Tons of great options for food. I guess that's gonna be a pro for everywhere, right? Hey, good problem to have. One that kind of sets Chiang Mai apart from most places in Thailand, it is a major hub in Thailand for nomads and all kinds of travelers, so very easy to make friends. If you're a backpacker, nomad, anything like that, it's super easy to meet like-minded individuals. In general, it's a lot more westernized than even Pattaya in most parts of Bangkok. So if you're away from home, especially if you're American, I read that one of the biggest expat American populations lives in Chiang Mai. So when it comes to food, restaurants, bars, it's, you know, there's a lot of Americana, which is super good. I definitely enjoyed that. And our last pro, much less traffic than a lot of the bigger cities. It is roughly the same size as Pattaya, and from my experience, traffic in Pattaya gets much worse. Rolling straight into the cons, I'm trying to pick it up for y'all. Some of the worst air quality in the world for 3 or so months of the year due to burning season. If you don't know, a lot of the rice farms in Thailand are up north, and that's how, once everything's harvested, that's how they reset for the next season. They burn everything. So for a few months out of the year, the air quality is really bad. Also, with being way up north, you are a bit isolated from the rest of Thailand if you don't plan on flying. Now, there are trains and buses that go up there, but coming all the way across Thailand on a train or a bus is a bit of a journey. So maybe you're planning on buying a bike and hopping around. That is a little bit harder to do out of Chiang Mai, although not impossible, of course. There can be huge fluctuations in cost in Chiang Mai from the busy to the slow season. So if you're planning on going there for a trip, that's something to keep an eye on. And last thing, the surrounding areas. And in Chiang Mai, not as much, but if you're, you know, planning on going to some of those national parks, things like that we mentioned, during the rainy season, those parts of Thailand can experience very bad flooding. So that can be a little bit rough logistically. Okay, now last, but for sure not least, I know this is a big spot that a lot of people consider, understandably, and that is Phuket. And I kind of just lumped in Krabi and kind of the whole southern area of Thailand all together. And they're all similar in most regards. So hopping right into the pros, very easy to access the best beaches and islands in Thailand. Most of the time, if you get on Google and you type in, you know, beautiful Thailand beach, beautiful Thailand island, most of the time what shows up is gonna be that area down there around Krabi, Phuket, Phi Phi, Samui, that whole area. That's some of the best, most beautiful beaches in Thailand. If you're in Phuket or Krabi, you've got easy access to all of those. Lots of younger travelers as well as expats, so it's super easy to meet people doing the same things as you. Pretty much everybody that's coming to Thailand for, you know, 2 or 3 weeks or however long, Phuket, if they've never been, is probably gonna be on their list, so easy to meet people from all over. Really quick access to other countries to the south like Malaysia, Indonesia, Bali. Bali is Indonesia, but you know what I mean. So if you're hopping around, or maybe you've got plans and you're gonna live in Thailand and you wanna go to those places as well, doesn't really change it too much logistically, but shorter flight, which we all appreciate. Now, with all those travelers coming through there are tons of access to Western amenities, food, due to the amount of them that are coming through there. So there's a lot of stuff that's catered towards Westerners, so it's gonna be super comfortable. You're gonna be able to find everything that you need or want for the most part. And last but not least, my favorite thing and the reason why I go to those places when I do is, especially if you're living there, the slow season is awesome because there's not as many expats there compared to the other place we talked about. So just it thins out. You'll have beaches to yourself. It's really easy to book any, boat tours or anything. There's just relatively nobody there. But there is one thing you're gonna have to deal with that's a bit of a con, and we'll hop into that right now. Now, with these places being on pretty much everybody's list, they can be much more expensive than the other places we talked about, especially Phuket. If you don't know, Phuket, even though it's really big, is still an island. So there's only so much space, there's only so many condos, there's only so many rooms, and essentially everybody wants to go there. So places will charge a premium, especially during the busy season. Now in the slow season, even though it does thin out quite a bit, that's for one main reason. It rains all the time down there when it is rainy season, pretty much every day. Maybe not in your neighborhood, but if you're in Ao Nang, Samui, places like that, you are surrounded by water, so there's going to be tons of rain if that's something you are not crazy about. And with things being super busy for about half the year and then slowing down for the other half, there are major price swings on everything from food all the way up to accommodation, flights, all of that stuff. So that's for sure something to consider. Public transportation down in those areas isn't quite as convenient as some of the other places we've mentioned. Now, granted, in Phuket, Samui, even Ao Nang, well, right outside of Ao Nang and Krabi, you still have access to airports and things like that, so you can get around the rest of the country. But when it comes to, buses, trains, things like that, they are still around, they're just not as readily available. And last but not least, Phuket, yes, comparable, but any of the other places out on the islands, they're much smaller, so it totally makes sense. But if you are coming to Thailand to party, you still have options. There's still places, there's still clubs, there's still bars, but the options you're gonna have, especially compared to places like Pattaya or Bangkok, are gonna be much more limited. And considering there's a lot of people there probably doing the same thing, they are going to be much more crowded. So if you're planning a vacation in Thailand, especially if you're planning on moving here, I think it is good to kind of take all these things into consideration. Like I said, some of these cons may not bother you, some of the pros may not be pros to you. If you are looking at a specific area and you had a question about something that we didn't cover in this video, feel free to drop it down in the comments. Not only myself, but there are tons of expats in the community on this channel, and a lot of them are willing to help out anybody who has any questions or concerns. So feel free to drop down there and drop any questions you may have. Per normal, I am starving. I want to check out this super behind me. So thank you guys for tuning in. In reality, it's all Thailand, so you can't really go wrong. If you made it this far in the video, I'm assuming you enjoyed it. So feel free to go down, give that like button a kick in the nuts, and I will catch you guys in the next one.